Any-Con this year is actually quietly happening here. You guys don't realize this, but this guy at the end of the table, I've been collecting a series he did for years now. I've turned like 3 people onto the series, all of them turn into rabid collectors. It's not an easy series to find either, so thanks, bro. Thanks for that. That's great. That's really great. Ms. Ray Telgemeier, who, as we know, is the Eisner Award-winning author of Smile. She's also the creator of the graphic novel The Babysitter's Club, and she and her husband wrote the X-Men manga. She has an amazing ability to have women and young women in comics who are fully clothed and fully actualized, which is something that we're all very proud of her for and very excited to find out more about how she does it.
Or men are in skimpy outfits.
Yeah, men are there in really skimpy outfits, but yeah. And to my immediate right is a close personal friend of mine, Alex Simmons, a guy who's always here for me, always helping me out. He's a scholar, an author, a writer. He's the creator of the Dark Jack superhero character, Blackjack's superhero character, and the curator of Color of Comics, which is a look at diversity in comics, a curated show that he actually brought over to Senegal. He also writes for Archie, which I find fascinating because it's the whitest damn comic in the world. So I'm very, very much interested in what Alex has to say. It's a really amazing, amazing collection of people, so I'd like to get a round of applause right off the bat. I'm going to open it up real quick and easy with the question of what do you see the state of diversity in comics today being at this moment, now, right now? And I'm going to turn to my friend Alex for something quick.
Oh, right, I was going to let him start.
Right off the bat. No, you get to flow.
You know, it's interesting because all throughout life, you look at music, you look at entertainment and films, media and stuff like that, and over, like, say, a 30-year period, diversity tends to come into the mainstream kicking and screaming. And it's usually, okay, we have one. Maybe we have 2, you know. My favorite reference is an old beer commercial with a group of happy young people baking clams and things on the beach, the big beach party, the sun's setting, and the fire's roaring, and they're all in couples, and it's all white couples, and there's one black guy sitting there just smiling all his beer. And, you know, my attitude was always about perception. Because everyone's like, yeah, well, the man's there, the brother's there by himself, and that's racist. I said, what makes you think he's by himself? Well, ain't no black woman. I said, what makes you think he's by himself? Perception, you know, is how do you look at it? I think that what's happening in comics to some degree, especially in the independent market, is there's some real change. There's some, so many different people and cultures, not just black, but, you know, Asian and Hispanic and so forth, coming forth with their stories and their heroes and their visions. I think that's great. I think in mainstream, there are some people within mainstream who are making sincere efforts to really integrate comics with, again, different nationalities and so forth. But I think in terms of the big dogs, it's about numbers. It's about, you know, well, there's Dwayne McDuffie used to say it's a rule of 3. If you have more than 3 black characters in any story, suddenly it's a black story. So, you know, they usually try and keep it down to, okay, we got Mr. Terrific in this story. You know, let's keep it there because, you know, there's 93 villains coming at him and we got 1 black. So I think right now it's not a sincere across the board improvement, but I think there's improvement. Definitely, if you look at anything from the 60s back, it's a real improvement. And if you come forward through the 70s into the 90s, I think that they're treating, especially in terms of people of color, blacks in particular, okay, we're not all bad guys now, okay, we're not all saints. You know, there's starting to be some levels of subtext and stories, which I like. Because in real life, we aren't all saints and sinners. We're a mixture of, and that's the real world. So I'm looking forward to more improvement, but I don't think we should ignore what is happening right now. That's my capsule. Be here next week for it.
Well, I think it depends what you mean by comics, because I think some people think of comics as superhero comics, and some people, especially younger people, think of comics as meaning manga and superheroes and independent comics. And so I think there's still not as much diversity as I would like to see in those different aspects of comics, but I feel like it's starting to improve. Manga is helping. I feel like if you look at what types of people want to create comics now who are maybe under 25, you'll see a ton of women, you'll see a ton of, you know, there's a lot of black kids that absolutely love manga and want to make it, and there's a lot of
They
Asian
don't put
kids.
blacks in the manga.
Well,
We'll work on that.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of Asian kids who want to make manga. There's a lot of Hispanic kids who want to make manga, and so you've just got this kind of melting pot happening. I feel like I should probably throw it out to the ladies because I am the lady on the panel who.
I see at least one, three young ladies in the room.
Yes,
Yes.
welcome. And I think there's this thing happening right now that I haven't been paying quite enough attention to with DC and their new 52 line where they're basically exploiting women and they're exploiting characters who, like Starfire, who's extremely popular on the TV show Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, a young, spunky teenager on the show who a lot of girls love and look up to, and then she's now being portrayed as an adult with a see-through bikini.
That's
And-
sex kid.
yes, and she has no personality. I haven't read the story,
She
so I
has no
can't.
memory because she's sleeping.
Wait, that's actually written into her
Yeah,
character.
she forgets who she was with, so it's just sex.
So I'm able to fortunately sort of pull the shutter down on that sort of thing and just blind myself to it and say, you know what, I'm trying to make comics about kids who live in diverse neighborhoods and who have friends of every color and identity, and I don't plan to stop doing that anytime soon. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of people like me who aren't thinking about stuff. I'm not as good as Alex is putting it all into a nice bubble, but
You did quite well.
I mean, what are your thoughts right now? Like the scene right now.
Well, it's yeah, they're trying with diversity a little more, but it's the people controlling the diversity that's actually, I think, the problem. Like, let's say, like making Catwoman, you know, have sex with Batman on the roof and you know, showing everything, and it seems that the people controlling it, they think, well, you know, I did this and I did that, and I have a woman there, and I have a black person there, and I have an Asian there. So I am being diverse, but the way they're writing it, it's not diverse. It's just it's another person's point of view that's been the controlling point of view for like, you know, eons. You know, so that's kind of what it is. But I see that in independent comics. You know, I just read the last Love and Rockets, and it was amazing. And it felt like the last Maggie story. It was just like, wow, this person aged the whole thing. It made me cry at the end of the story. It was just like, this is like powerful. This is like real. Why can't we do that? You know, halfway in other comics. So, I know, but
Well, that thing's been my next question.
if they did it, it would sell. But they don't think it sells, and it's
You just said it.
Yeah.
You just said it.
Right. Well, and this brings me to my next question, because Mr. Velez, of course, was involved in Milestone Publications. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, it's an incredible line that DC did, which was a diversity line, kind of a spin-off. They marketed your stuff, and you guys created it. It was kind of how it went.
The four partners created the universe. Actually, five. But,
We don't talk about that.
Yeah. And they were kind of like, let's say, rented, or kind of like basically
Licensed.
Licensed, right?
Yeah.
But now I think they own everything.
Right.
I think they just bought everything out.
Yeah.
And they did. I think right now they just basically threw everything out and kept static, and then they just kind of squeezed out the code out of it. And now he's in Harlem. It's a hate relationship that they had with Milestone. But it was a good, when we were there, it was pretty amazing. I thought, because we got to do so many things, at least in the first year, that nobody, you know, we didn't know we couldn't do it. So it's all of a sudden we had diversity, we had different shades of people of color, we had Latinos with different shades, we had like Asians, we had like women who were like very powerful, but we had issues too. It was just nice. I mean, sexual orientation was all over the place. And it just felt good, but you know, things change.
Well, you know, this was kind of one of the things. This is part of the reason why I love Blood Syndicate so much, which is I have this book and I'm crazy about it. But it's like Benetton on steroids mixed with crack kind of thing, because you've got everybody is present, and it's not just like the one black dude and the chick who speaks with a slight Hispanic accent. You know, I mean, this real diversity. There's, as you say, across the shades, across the sexual orientation gamut. There's transgenderism. It's a wildly diverse
Well, it's a New York
scene.
subway car. You know,
It's pretty much.
Yeah, it's
Pretty much.
what I'm used to. What people in New York are used to. You just, especially from the Bronx or Brooklyn or stuff like that. Everybody's there, and they gotta be represented. You know, and sometimes when I see other stories, when it's like, well, why is this person so isolated? And what, you know, he comes in and then he comes out, and there's nothing going on.
I think, you know, somebody, and I don't mean to cut you
No,
off,
just
somebody once said to me years ago, and if you look at the white in my beard, you understand, An artist reflects what he or she has absorbed. You know, where they come from, what they know, what they've learned, what they've experienced. And you can see, in particular, in the controlling individuals who affect comics and graphic novels, what they've absorbed, what life they live, and what lens they're looking at the world through. And if you ride the subways and the buses in New York City, there are definitely areas where the passengers are predominantly Caucasian, or predominantly Asian, or predominantly black, or Hispanic, or whatever. But if you just take your trips through the city, I'm sorry, you just run into everybody from wacko to wonderful. And literally,
Sometimes the same cat.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, you choose to ignore that. You choose to sanitize it. You choose to present the world in the way you want to see it. And that's sort of what has happened. I mean, even we do that, but we feel we're trying to be more honest. We're trying to represent more of what's out there, more levels of it, various attitudes and issues and lifestyles. Whereas they're saying, yeah, we know that exists and we have that one. And that one, like they did with, I forget the name of the police detective in Gotham PD. She was Montoya. One of the strongest characters, women characters they come up with in that series. And then they decided she also had to be the gay character. And she had to be this and she had to be that because we have her. You know, guys, you know there's more than one Latino woman in New York? It's a weird concept, but you know, embrace that for a moment. So I feel like, it's like, well, you know, quickly, I'll talk about this later, but this is a 6-issue miniseries I did with Archie Comic. And the storyline was, they said, look, we want to bring more diversity, more different types of kids into Riverdale High. How do we do that? And I said, well, if we can touch on the real world for a moment, economics, there are schools closing down. Kids are being dispersed to other areas. And so how about a school in Riverdale gets hit with that, and their whole student body and staff have to be splintered. And so Riverdale High winds up with a whole new stash of supporting characters. And that's what I did. I worked very hard to run the gamut. At one point, someone said, oh, we don't have a Native American character. You want just one? Or can we actually have a whole family? I mean, you know, where are we going here? Because it becomes that, oh, we represent. I said, represent organically. Let's not cookie cut, but let's do this organically. And let's ease them in with real stories. Who are they? As opposed to, yes, this is the Indian kid. This is the East Indian kid. Oh, wait a minute, there's a difference? You know, let's start to bring in some clarity and bring the characters in organically. And I think that's difficult for some of us to embrace.
Wasn't Riverdale
in comics? No, I think Stan Lee is. But Victor has been an editor at Archie Comics for over 50 years. This is their 70th year anniversary right now. Victor's been there for almost all of it, you know? And Victor says it was never, ever, ever, ever stated that Riverdale was Riverdale. But 90% of the artists and people lived in New York City and Westchester. So maybe, you know, maybe, you know. But again, if that was the case, then I would understand why it was all Caucasian, because at the time they were creating all this, Riverdale was, I gotta turn this thing off, I'm sorry. Riverdale was pretty much a white arena.
But anyway, now it's like that, it's 10%.
Yeah, well, if we really want to represent more, we need to put some more of the Jewish families in there, you know? Well, let's get real.
Is your jughead Jewish? Yeah.
No one's ever said that either, you know?
He's eating hamburgers.
It's like, and he's out Friday night, so I don't know, you know? I don't know.
I don't want us to be completely tied up in the economics of this and everything, but I did have an anecdote I wanted to throw out, and I wanted to kind of get a resonance back from you guys on it. I was going into a comic book store, and it's not Silver Age, whose owner is here with us. It wasn't that, but it's another comic book store in the city. And I spoke to the guy who ran the place, and I said, hey, I'm looking for milestone titles. I need any milestone titles. I collect milestone titles. And his response to me was, those things didn't sell when they were new. Why the hell would I have them now? And my response was, my response was, because I'm going to pay you for it now, but if you don't have them, then no. But my question is,
We got a lot of that.
yeah, this was the thing. This was kind of the litany that was heard.
They went away.
So how do we break it?
Download everything.
Okay.
Ooh.
I mean, that's what people are doing now anyway. I mean, I got the entire run of Milestone off the internet.
Did you pay for it?
No.
Okay.
Hey, my stuff there is not, Milestone's not paying me for anything, so why should
Okay. So there's that.
But that's what the kids are doing now anyway. So they have to find a way to change that. You can't.
I'm actually thinking new materials. I'm actually thinking new materials is the new way. You know what I mean? And if economics are what drives titles,
Right.
then how do we get? Because I mean, God knows, I work in an inner city library. I don't see many white kids reading comics because I don't see many white kids, right? So the question is, how do we get? You know, how can we move to have that representation be represented on the kids?
Well, I think the whole comic store thing is gonna kind of fade away soon anyway. Like, I think things are changing, so it's gonna be more of the independent stuff and people doing their own kind of YouTube comics or kind of things where they put their own stuff out. And I think the best will rise to the top. And I'm just hoping that the thing is to get more kids of color to start and training and teaching them to get that, to show their stories. I think that's the way it's gonna work. So that's what happens with the gay stuff. I mean, the gay stuff is all on the internet. The best stuff rises to the top and everyone is fame. So I think that will happen with everything else too.
I'm not sure.
Well, I have another question.
I have two thoughts about that. When this is another plug, folks. When I was doing my book back in '96, and this one actually came out in 2001. There were several people like A Mile High, which is a major distributor of comics, who went, oh wow, okay, how many? How do we get this? We'll try a few. We'll do 5 now. We'll see what happens. Whatever. And then there was a number of distributors who said, well, that has a limited audience. I don't really. I mean, it's really not going to sell with our customers. We don't have very many blacks. I said, really? Okay, that's too bad because those folks have just ordered 400 copies of it because they sold out. Oh, really? Well, yeah. Let's go over and talk to them. Maybe they can tell you what they did. You're serious? I said, yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, but it's okay. You don't want to carry it. That's fine. Reality is preconception. Again, we go with it's a book about blacks, or it's a book about Asians, or it's a book about gays, or it's a book about women. It's not going to sell to the testosterone guys living in mom's basement. Well, that's not all the customers you have. Or yes, guess what? You could have more customers, different backgrounds, who'd be coming in here if you carried just a couple of copies of this and that, and just widen the variety of the banquet. So I think it's really part of it is in the marketing. Thank you. Oh, darn. It's in the marketing. It's how do you present the material to these reluctant retailers, not the ones who are hardcore, I don't care about you, but the reluctant ones, the ones who are afraid because, as the man just said, some of the stores are dying. There was a time when you could buy comics in eateries and soda fountains and supermarkets and things like that, and then the market is closed down. So the reality becomes
$3 for 20 pages. That's crazy.
Yeah. What do you do to get your book into the public's eye, and then make sure, and this is where you were talking about where kids are colored. Make sure your material is quality, the best you can do. If it's full of misspellings, if it looks sloppy and messed up, if you can't follow the story, don't bother. Work on it some more. Get somebody to edit, blah, blah, blah. Because the market is about, as you said, the best rises to the top. And if they start seeing a bunch of garbage, they're going to the attitude that some of them have will immediately just, see, I told you. Right. So I think it's about better material from whatever source, but also getting the material into the public's eye so they know about it. So they say, you know what, I can't take 10 of these, but I'll take 2 to see what happens. And if it works out, I'll reorder. At least get that going.
We had problems with, I remember Milestone had a lot of problems with the DC marketing department. They'd always be arguing, because they weren't trying to know, they would just try the same old thing. It's like the same old boys network, where they just do the same old things and, pat each other on the back and that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't working. The advertising was horrible. It was horrible. It's like rap songs and lyrics on top. It's like, well, of course you're gonna have preconceived notions if all you see is those rap song lyrics and stuff. And it just
and bad ones at that.
Yeah.
Raina, I got a question for you. You are a young woman artist and creator. You made quite a reputation for yourself. In what is often considered a very boy-centric area, do you feel as if you are visiting the boys' club on occasion? Have you had experiences with not with any individuals in particular, of course, but in your career, have you felt as if you've encountered barriers that maybe you wouldn't have encountered as a boy?
It's hard to say because I'm working for Scholastic, which is a children's book publisher.
Okay.
So I'm sort of coming to comics from the world of children's books, which, if you guys know anything about the publishing industry, it is run by women, and it is sort of controlled by awesome women, and it has been for a really long time. So I was working with the support of women editors and women marketing people, and their job was to get this book mostly into schools and libraries, and also bookstores. So I wasn't really coming to try to make it into the comic book store market, the direct market, although that's kind of a side order of gravy that ends up being really nice. And I really haven't felt any, like, restraint
Okay.
as a creator, but I do sometimes go to conventions.
That was
And
my next
I
question,
do
is that the
sometimes
cons?
talk to guys who are like, well, you make books about girls, and I don't know if I want to read this book because I don't know if I can identify with a girl. And I hear this all the time. And it's interesting because as a girl, girls know this, guys might not think about this very much, but girls grow up reading books about guys. We're comfortable reading stories about boys and watching shows and movies about boys, and it's just what we do, because there's lots of stories about boys, but a lot of boys aren't comfortable going in the other direction and reading stories about girls. So I've had a great readership of males for many years who were like, well, I overcame my fears of being perceived as a sissy, and I ended up really enjoying your book. And then I shared it with my daughter.
Oh, well, that's big praise. Yeah, that's big praise.
And then I shared it with my daughter, and she likes it too, and now we can bond over it. So it's sort of this like changing attitude that's happening, and I'm coming at it from a different angle. So I don't know if it would be different if I were drawing for DC or Marvel. So I can't really speak to that, but this
And
has
if
been-
you were offered work on the 25 series, how would you feel about that?
how does it pay, and what's the deadline? And, I'm approaching it as a professional, so is it going to gel with the kind of style that I draw in, which is very cartoony and loose and happy. I've been talking with the guy that works for Archie for many years about doing something with them, and it just hasn't happened yet because I haven't had time. I've been super busy, but
Sure.
so it just
Leave them
depends.
hanging, leave them hanging.
Isn't it wonderful that so many girls are reading comics, openly now like that?
Wonderful.
The whole Bronx is full of all these kids in the libraries, the only reads the manga, and it's like,
Yeah.
they're all
Yes.
there, and crowding the library is just a beautiful thing.
It almost seems as if the